Hey everybody, this is Zach Rohde from relationshipofyourdreams.com, and today I'm going to talk to you about self-worth. And self-worth is a very important topic because that is the primary way that both men and women create attraction for the opposite sex. And the problem that I've encountered is, I've dated a lot of women, and I've dated a lot of women that were very, very feminine, which, that's what I'm really teaching women how to be, is really tap into their feminine. And I've also dated quite a few women that were, much more in their masculine, but, because I was tended to be much more masculine, it would push them into their feminine. But the problem that I encountered, especially with women that were very, very in touch with their feminine, was that most of them seemed to have a lot more self-worth issues, which makes sense because, the masculine is, it's associated with self-worth, right? Like that's, you learn to defend your self-worth and like, instead of just giving yourself away for nothing and like being a doormat, right? Because when a woman is very feminine but hasn't integrated her masculine at all, she's basically a doormat. She will allow herself to be taken advantage of and just really give herself away in so many different ways. And what I discovered from dating a lot of women is I actually tended to, at least for long-term attraction, I tended to be more attracted to women that, had a lot more masculine traits. And it wasn't the masculine traits themselves that I was attracted to. It was just that they tended to have a lot more self-worth, whereas and really valued themselves and really knew what they were worth. And that was communicated in so many different ways, just subtle ways, right? That I, as a man, I can pick up on. Whereas the women that were very, very feminine, I could basically get away with doing whatever I wanted, right? I could treat them well, I could treat them not so well and just kind of lead more selfishly, and they would just go along with it and not speak up. Whereas the more, masculinized women, they would speak up. And they would speak up in a masculine way, which, for a man, that's kind of irritating. But at least they would speak up. And speaking up is always better than staying silent. That's like the worst thing you could do as a woman is a man is not leading in a way that, you feel good about. You don't feel good in your body about the way that he's leading. He's leading selfishly, or he's leading, kind of disrespectfully or whatever. And you stay silent about it. And for a lot of women, like especially really feminine women, I think they can't even feel just how badly, I guess, they feel like they're kind of not connected to their own feelings. That's kind of what I've noticed from some women that I've dated. In hindsight, right? Because I wasn't always the best. I haven't always been the best guy, right, with women. Like I would never purposely try to hurt women, but I certainly have been selfish while dating. And in hindsight, looking back, there was definitely a lot of women where, I was able to do kind of whatever I wanted, and they just kind of went along with it and wouldn't say anything. And I really don't even think that they could feel like that they were in touch with their bodies enough to know that the way I was leading was not good, was like disrespectful, and that they deserved better, right? Like a woman should know and should be in touch with her feelings enough to know that, she deserves the best from a man, right? She deserves the absolute best treatment from a man in every way. He should be leading in a way that makes her feel good and not making her feel bad. And so for both, and the interesting thing is, for both masculinized women and that are like operating through their masculine a lot more, um, as well as feminine women that are, operating through their feminine, but perhaps they haven't integrated their masculine and like their self-worth and their boundaries and all that stuff. The solution to that is the same, as far as demonstrating your self-worth. And the biggest part of that, there's a few parts of that, but I'm not going to go into all of those. But the biggest part is expressing how she feels, um, both good and bad. But as far as like self-worth goes, especially expressing when she feels bad, right? Because and being willing, like being 100% willing to walk away from a man who does not care about her feelings when she's expressing them. It's so important. So for example, like, and like, this is not like, I've had so many women clients and talked to a lot of women where, they kind of keep that stuff in until they've like landed a guy and they're in a relationship with him, right? That's the wrong time to start being vulnerable. The right time is the first time that he does something disrespectful and kind of like pushes your boundaries. That's the time to do it. And often that's going to be, like a first date, or even before a first date while you're setting things up. And certainly within the first few dates. Like if a man hasn't kind of annoyed you or made you feel confused or pissed you off in some way or made you feel sad or made you feel disrespected or unappreciated in the first few dates, like he's either a dream man, like, and just really has his stuff together and is really into you, or maybe you're just not really in touch with how you're feeling. It's probably one or the other. So you need to be communicating that stuff right away. So for example, right, like there's just so many guys that are not, first of all, they're not bad guys. They're just kind of ignorant and don't understand women and don't understand women's needs. And so they might do something that is disrespectful. For example, like a first or second date, start like sexting or maybe doing it in person or something, right? And a woman's just like not comfortable with that. You haven't developed that sexual relationship. And some women are fine with that too early on, right? Like that, to be fair, some women are totally fine with sexual talk earlier on, but then there's a lot that aren't. And neither is wrong. Neither of those types of women is right or wrong. It's just who you are as a woman. So let's say you're the type of woman, or at least you're with a guy where he's texting you and it's an uncomfortable situation. You just, for whatever reason, it makes you feel uncomfortable. Whether it's because it's that guy or because it's the way he's texting or because it's too soon or it's just who you are, doesn't matter. You feel uncomfortable. That's all that matters. So are you going to stay silent about it? Are you going to just kind of go along with it even though it makes you feel uncomfortable? Or are you going to say like this, or what masculinized women might do is say like this is gross, like I don't want to talk about this, whatever, right? So that would be like a very defensive or combative way of dealing with it, which isn't the best way to deal with it either. At least in a way, it's kind of demonstrating self-worth, but it's just going to kind of shut a man down from leading and push him away. The healthy feminine response to something like that is like, I feel really uncomfortable sexing with you this early, right? You are expressing your feelings. You're expressing why you feel that way. Really simple. And then the man's going to do one of two things. He's either going to lead in a devoted way, where it's like, oh, okay, no problem, let's talk about something else. Or he is going to, kind of ignore you or criticize you or belittle you or something like that, right? Which, it's up to a woman what she wants to do, at what point she wants to exit the dynamic between her and the man. If it's like you haven't even met this guy, then that's such a red flag that it's like, why even bother? It might be time to just walk away. If you've been invested a bit more, you might just say like this, like, I feel unheard. I'm not gonna, I just want to be by myself, and then see if he snaps back into being a man and being like, oh, like, why was I being such a dick? I don't want to treat her this way. But either way, you need to either walk away from the situation and say that you feel unheard, whether it's text or in person or whatever, and not put up with that kind of behavior, or you need to be willing to walk away from the, like, from the man, like the, I don't want to call it a relationship because you're not necessarily in a relationship, but whatever you've established, whether it's you've gone on 1 date or 10 dates, or it's a relationship or you haven't met, you have to be willing to walk away from that, because it's a man who does not, who's demonstrating that he doesn't care about your feelings. So if you're with a man like that, and you're expressing through your healthy feminine, you now have no other alternatives other than to stay silent and put up with that nonsense and then let him treat you like a doormat, or go into your masculine and set more like firm boundaries and say like, no, I don't want to, I'm not going to be talked to like that, right? And either of those, both of those are really not great solutions. One demonstrates you have really low self-worth, and the other one is forcing you to act like a man and be in your masculine. And neither of those are great options for a dynamic with a man. You deserve, right? You deserve a man who cares about your feelings, who is devoted to your heart, who treats you with respect. And so all you have to do, your responsibility, is just expressing how you feel, and see what he does with it, right from the very beginning. And if he doesn't deal with it in a like a mature masculine way, be willing to walk away and don't look back, because you know that you deserve better. That's what it's ultimately about. And so it's really simple in that way, isn't it? Right? Instead of having to worry, like women worry so much about like what would he think of me? Like, what if I feel like, what if he thinks I'm weak or like emotional or whatever it is? You don't have to worry about that stuff. All you have to do is express how you feel. And if he doesn't care, then he's not the man for you. It's as simple as that, because a masculine man who cares about women, who cares about the feminine, who is respectful to really people in general and to people's feelings, and who isn't a narcissist, he's gonna care, and he's gonna want to adjust his behavior, because you're basically expressing where your boundary is in your feminine without actually having to say no. You're just expressing your feelings, and then giving him the opportunity to set his own boundary for himself and be like, okay, I don't want to lead in this way because she feels disrespected or uncomfortable or whatever. I'm going to set a boundary for myself. I'm going to lead in a way that makes her happy. And once the real key piece though is being willing to walk away if a man doesn't treat you that way, if he's not responding that way to your feelings. Because once you've really set it in your mind, like, you have to really have this intent. It can't just be like, yeah, I might, like, we'll see how it goes. It needs to be like, I'm going to leave. Any man, I don't care how much I like them, if they communicate that they don't care about how I feel, because that's the most important thing to me, right? As a feminine woman, that like my feelings matter. They do matter. And that's really hard for a lot of women where those feelings have been invalidated, like in childhood, right? And which will often be a repeating pattern in adulthood, like through in dates and stuff, right? It continues to be invalidated because they now have a subconscious belief that, their feelings don't really matter, because their parents kind of instilled that belief in them by programming them that way. And so women need to reprogram themselves and realize, like, even if they don't fully have the belief yet, that's okay. If you don't really fully believe you have that self-worth, that's fine. Just say, just express yourself vulnerably and be willing to commit to leaving. And over time, as you do that over and over again, and you start to get better experiences from men where some actually do treat you really well, you'll start to realize, like, okay, wait a minute, like, I do deserve this, like, I'm getting evidence that, like, I do deserve this. There are men that are stepping up and they are caring about my feelings. And you're also proving to yourself that, like, I can walk away. I do, because I do deserve better, right? And that's one of the reasons, one of the many reasons, right? Like, that I try to encourage women to be vulnerable on my wall, because I would never disrespect that. And I want women to know, like, this is the kind of man that you deserve, is someone who would never invalidate your feelings if you're actually being responsible and expressing them, instead of, taking them out in many of the ways that women unfortunately choose to take them out on my wall, which is not the most responsible way. Getting stuck in judgments and criticisms and arguing and all that stuff. And it's the same in my group, right? Like, in my feminine group, where I encourage every woman to just tell me, like, if I've pissed you off in some way, like, just tell me. And this is the other big thing, right? Like, women get stuck in this idea of, it's like, is it my responsibility for these feelings, or is it his responsibility? And then, like, they won't share if they think it's, like, not something that's his responsibility. But that doesn't matter. Like, if you start thinking about, like, whose responsibility is it, whatever, you've kind of lost the whole point. Being vulnerable is not about only sharing when it's his responsibility. It's sharing because that's what's in your heart right now, right? Regardless of whether he did something where he should be changing his behavior, doesn't matter. This is just what's in your heart. And then he can, if it's something where he judges that he should change, then he will. So, like, for example, in my private group with women, there's lots of things that I've said, and usually it's the case where it's not something I can change, because I am just speaking the truth and being completely honest in a respectful way, which is triggering, right? Like, I trigger women all the time that way, which is fine, because I'm actually trying to give a gift of my truth, which triggers their, like, certain belief systems that they're attached to. Whereas if I was operating out of integrity and I was, say, purposely trying to hurt a woman's feelings because, I just didn't like her or something, then when she expresses her feelings, I would need to reflect and be like, oh, wait, I was not in integrity there. I need to adjust myself, as well as apologize and say, like, I'm sorry, I don't want to hurt your feelings. Or even sometimes when I do hurt women's feelings, like, I'm still going to say, like, I'm sorry, I didn't want to hurt your feelings. Like, I'm not going to stop speaking the truth, because that's what the truth is. And it's on my wall, or it's in my group or whatever. But that doesn't mean that I don't care about her feelings. Like, I always care about women's feelings. And I want to make sure that they feel good and loved and respected and appreciated. And I can do both at the same time, right? I can speak my truth and I can lead, and I can try my best to make sure that women feel that around me. And any man that a woman is dating should be able to do the same thing, right? You shouldn't, like, start walking on eggshells and not speak his truth and all that stuff just because it hurts a woman's feelings. But he should show that he really cares and adjust his leadership whenever appropriate to make his woman feel good. And a woman's going to be able to feel that, right? And a woman needs to be able to trust how she feels in her heart, because a woman's going to be able to sense when a man truly cares and is trying to be respectful and loving and all that stuff, versus someone who's just a selfish dick, who's kind of just in it for himself and doesn't really care about her. So really trust those feelings. Yeah, I think that's pretty much all I wanted to say. So the vulnerability, and then being willing to walk away if a man is demonstrating that he truly doesn't care about a woman's heart. It's as simple as that. Once you really got that, you know, you can go so far, and it's just become so much easier to attract men and keep men in relationships, right? And if you're looking for a lot more information on this, and because there's a lot of nuance and there's a lot of you know, just specifics with like the best way to express your heart and be vulnerable, and like when to walk away, and like how to say something, whatever. If you really want more information on that, I really encourage you to go to my website, find more information about my private group, and join my group. So website is relationshipofyourdreams.com. And there's lots of information on there on the coaching page about my group and my one-on-one coaching. And otherwise, hope you guys got a lot out of this video, and I will do another one soon.